Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Growth Design Podcast. And I've got my incredible co host with me, Emmanuel.
Hi guys, good to be here again.
All right. And we've got a wonderful episode lined up. We've got an incredible guest, Zachary Bolton. Hi, Zachary.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's great to
All
see
right.
you.
Thanks for coming on the episode.
We just gotta go.
We're just
Everyone
getting
who's
into
listening, we've just been having too much fun. It's Friday night for them. Let's just have a fun. Let's just all have it. Just embrace the Fridiness.
Yep.
Embrace
Let's
the
do
vibe
it.
here.
Okay. All right. So, yes, we have an incredible guest, Zachary, like I said. And I think what makes this podcast episode special for us is that we're really trying to dig into growth in a way like, how do you approach product strategy? How do you think about growth without spinning your wheels? And that's what Zachary's here to talk to us about. And you know what? He's got an incredible background and experience. He's worked at startups and with established companies like Google, Verizon, Amex. And right now he's doing something interesting, which is an agency that's focused on growth, product design, amongst other things. And it's called Otherland, which I think is a really great place to start the episode, because I remember the first time Emmanuel actually sent your website to me and I saw the name and thought, Otherland Studio. Wow, that's an interesting name. So before we get into your journey, can you just explain quickly what was the inspiration behind the name?
Yes. I mean, it's pretty simple. The idea was just that we want to be different. We don't want to be, I think all of us and on the team kind of have a cringe reaction to agency and kind of what you typically think of. Certainly, I've been working in those environments for a long time, so I've earned that. And so we wanted to do something like different. So this was like our way of saying like, this is like other. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes well with how I, approach things too. So we'll get into that.
Yes, which we would definitely dig into for sure. Okay, so let's bring this to you. Tell us about you. Tell us about your journey.
I think I will start maybe a little bit like how I grew up. I grew up in just so that kind of maybe I'll give a little understanding why I do what I do. My father was a psychologist. And so I grew up in a family that was professional service and helping others was a big theme, and also understanding motivations and behaviors of individuals and people, and of yourself was, something that was like highly valued and we talked about a lot. I think that really influenced me. So I kind of have just stayed in this area of service, both at work professionally and outside of work. It's something that brings me a lot of meaning. So when I started my career, I had an internship during my grad school at a design consultancy and branding agency. And it was just so exciting to work with other, creative people and designers and to help them that I just I was really, that was it. I was sold. I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm not very good at design, but I definitely want to be around these people. And so I got out, and my first job that I was able to land was on Madison Avenue in one of those Mad Men buildings. Yes, doing advertising, which yes. So I started there and worked throughout my career, kind of from the awareness and acquisition side of things all the way through to product and loyalty. And, I've kind of worked on everything and landed in a spot where, where I found what I love the most, which is really, helping companies to make changes that are going to help them to grow, improve their business. So
I love that. Wow, thank you for the intro. And then, I love your journey. Love the Mad Men reference, and that must have been really exciting.
Was a wild, there was a few floors in the building that they hadn't changed, it seemed.
Oh, wow.
So you could go in there. Yeah, you could go in those floors, and it was it was really like going back in time. It was cool. Really, really cool. I used to love going up there just to kind of imagine what it was like back in the day.
That's amazing. That sounds interesting. Okay, so you know what? This is where we then begin to talk about, I see how your journey has led into, we've had our conversations away from this current recording about how product strategy and the buzzwordiness of it, right?
Yeah.
And how if you read a bunch of product strategy articles and trying to understand it really, you oftentimes find that there are so many takes on it that for
Yeah.
someone who is trying to understand it may not even know where to begin, because there's so many different takes on what it truly means. And ultimately, you then sometimes see it and realize that when you take it within a company, there's like strategy for every team, right? So it's not even just
Yeah.
about product
Yeah.
strategy.
This is true. There are many strategies.
There's so many strategies. But when you look at those strategy documents, you then see that it's basically roadmaps in some
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting
Mm.
topic. Now, for us, we want to break this down, right? For you, in from your experience, what does product strategy mean to you?
That's a great question. I would say that it's definitely not, like a roadmap or a set of goals or anything like that. And in fact, like, my background is not in strategy. Most of my career, I was very averse to strategy. And I was very much on like the let's do the thing, let's build the thing. I want to make the thing. And I experienced, I think, the frustration that a lot of people have of like strategy being this thing that didn't really make sense, didn't really know what to do with it, seemed like a waste of time. There were some slides on a deck, maybe some diagrams, and like, okay, but like we need to do the thing. How do these connect? And it was really always kind of, I didn't really see the point sometimes, which I think is still the case with, and it's definitely the case, I think, with the customers that we work with sometimes. So I kind of don't even say strategy anymore very often because it's such a loaded term, as you've described. So I will say what I think, it embodies. So, at the core, which is first, I think it's just understanding what is the unique value that our product is going to bring to customers. Like, what is that? And then I think after that, more importantly, what are the things that we need to change, that are going to change, in order for us to continue to deliver on that value, that unique value that we're, delivering. And I think, like you can't really grow without change, right? So there's got to be a change. And so for me, that's it. If we can cover those, I can then, I can see how this can be used in providing direction and focus as we move into execution. The last thing I'll say, we all work in technology products, and they're complex, and the problems are complex. Like I don't believe in simplifying, this thing. Like it's a complex thing. We can try to apply different lenses if we need to apply different lenses to a problem so that it is, communicated at the right level
Yeah.
of abstraction or whatever for the audience. But like ultimately, it's really complex. It's easy to make a decision to say we're going to do this, but it's actually really like complex to to solve the problem. And so I think strategy, if it's going to do its job, it needs to help us as we're solving the problem to be able to kind of like make decisions, know where we're going to focus, what we aren't going to be doing, and what few things that we are going to do at this point in time. So
So
that's my soapbox. I'll step down for a minute.
so to sort of summarize what you're saying, right? Because I'm also thinking about how product strategy, brand strategy, all of these things strategize together.
They
And
all strategize.
how it's basically like you look at the mission, the vision, all the things that we're about, and then we look at the market. I mean, this is a super simplified way to think about it, but like you look at all the things we're about, we look at all the things that the market is about, and then we look at that middle of connecting what we're about and how do we get that to the people that need it in a very, very
Yeah.
simplified way.
You've said it very well. You I couldn't have said it better. I think, another way that helps me to understand it sometimes is like, I think about it very, very similar to like, if I was, for me, like, so you could just imagine personally as well, when we're thinking about professionally, there is a value that we are being hired, whether it be by customers or by a hiring manager in a company. We're being hired to do something, a value that we bring. And that value is something that we may think we understand, but the true understanding of that value is, often in the eyes of the person who is hiring you. And that is essentially your customer, right? So sometimes it's helpful to think about it in kind of like these terms as well, like use yourself as an analogy. It's not always like the things that you think are unique and are the value that you want to bring. There's often a slight difference between that and what people really see. And I think it's very similar for products. Often your customers can provide a true view of what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are spot on. I think I remember during one of our conversations, right? You said you were a product strategist that don't like strategy, right? And
Yeah.
that really took me off balance. When I heard that, I was like, woof, like how on earth is that even possible, right? So you've worked with a wide range of clients, right? And in your experience, why do traditional product strategy frameworks don't really materialize in terms of product strategies, and it's starting becoming the buzzword that we think it is instead of actually doing the work?
Yeah, I think the frameworks and models and things, the intentions are good, and
Yep.
but it is a challenge to take a way that like works for you. If you're a strategist, it's a challenge, right, to take your mind and what works and then to put that into like a one-page thing.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times that it almost like telephone, so you're getting not the real original message, but something that's like kind of a translation, and then you need to figure out how to take that and then apply it to your unique situation. And I think that's a lot of times that's kind of why it becomes a struggle. And then I think also it's really easy to get attached to the artifact and get attached to the thing that you're doing, and not why am I doing this, and how can I make this really useful. And sometimes it's easy to forget that.
So essentially, you're saying that why some of these things fall short in practice is that most people get attached to the artifact or to the act itself instead of marrying the why are we doing this, right? Essentially, it's about why are we doing so framework? What is the goal we want to achieve? Instead of just focusing on that activity itself. It's like, is that what you're trying to kind of differentiate?
Yeah, let the framework or whatever it is serve you. So if you need to break it, like do what you need to do so that it's going to help you move forward. I think if you're working on something that's strategic and it's whatever you're doing, whatever model or framework you're using, if it's not enabling you to make steps and take action, then you can just get rid of it. And like try something else, or like I've even suggested, like if it's not working, just don't for a while, and just try something even like more simple of just kind of like talk to your customers, see like where things are between what they see as valuable in your product and what you have on your roadmap, and like just go from there. Like if the framework's not working, then I think you are at liberty to try something else, or just take the parts of it that you think are going to work and use those. And I'm not saying that strategy isn't valuable, obviously, but I think sometimes we get kind of trapped by
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, utterly, right? Because if you think about it, the frameworks are supposed to enable you, but they oftentimes then become the very thing that cripples people, like we've talked about.
Yeah.
So, and then when you think about words, very cringeworthy words at this point, it's like disruption, innovation, and all of these bits that I'll get tossed around a lot in strategy documentation. In your case, since you come from that perspective where the work is not defined by the artifact we create, it really is just about the work. How do you ensure that you're cutting through that noise and you're getting to actionable steps that can drive real results for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple, actually. Well, maybe not. It's actually hard, but then when you think about it, it's simple. So just use like plain language. So, but that, so it's easy to say, right? But then I'm guilty of this. I think we all are. It's like so easy to kind of fall back on, these terms like strategy, for example, or innovation, and just, but what does that mean? It means a lot of things to different people. So, my answer is like, I try to just say, whatever it is that I want to say, I say it just with like language that my 9-year-old son could understand.
Yeah. So basically,
So-
you don't want to synergize our innovative.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I feel the synergies here. We're transforming the whole, yes,
Yeah, it's going
transforming
to
the
be a
way
transformative
that people think
experience.
about strategy.
A whole transformative experience for our customers.
Nice.
You know?
Okay, so let me come from the strategic thinking part of things, right? There's this common challenges, or like call it like a common problem in the product team, like when you are trying to balance, we call it the product tension. Permit, I don't know if that's a word or something,
You
but there's
can
a
name it
tension.
what it is. Yeah. I
So
like
there's
it. Here is the
Product
strategic
tension.
thinking. Yeah.
yeah, so there is a product tension that it's always between speed and quality, right? Let's put it that way. So when you're kind of thinking from that perspective, right? So how do you ensure you are moving quickly, but then you are not jeopardizing the quality of your strategic thinking or the results you gonna like get?
Well, I'll say that I think if strategy is doing its job right, then it's giving you the answers to, to make the decisions. So you're able to say, this is actually not something that's really, important for us or that we need to focus on. And in the interest of, like momentum, then, that's something that's like going to be like deprioritized, as we say, or, like it's a no. I think if it's doing its job and our organization has embraced it, like I think one thing is to like make a strategy.
Yeah.
Cool. We like we wrote it down and it sounds really good and it uses plain language. But if people aren't excited and they haven't bought into this thing, whatever it is that we, that we're saying we're going to do, then it won't. It's just also not going to be.
Yeah.
It's a waste of words. So I guess that my answer is like the strategy can help you as long as everyone has kind of bought in and they say, yes, we like the thing that we are going to do to be different and to continue to drive value is like, it's these very few things. And, and that is like, that's what we're going to do. And everything else has got to be, and this is extremely hard, to stay focused. But again, going back to the complexity, like if you're able to do that, then it allows the complex machinery that's working to make judgments, to make decisions, and help, and help solve that issue, like help address the, the speed versus,
Quality.
like quality or
I would have loved to kind of pull that thread a little bit more, but because of time, because
I mean, I've been on, I'll be honest, like most of the time, whenever I was, building products, I've been on the end of, like not having a clear strategy, and like, again, this just feeds into why I say I'm a product strategist who doesn't believe in it, just because.
saying that again, I'm like,
Hey, you gotta say it with your chest.
But I think this is real life. I'm not alone. I think if you asked a lot of product managers and people who are are building things, they have the same frustration, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge no matter what. It's a challenge, to try to like ship something and get some value out there and do it in a way that like is timely. There's so much complexity. So if there's even some little bit that can help me, and I'm just putting myself in the, the PM spot, or really anybody on the team that can help us just to like, make decisions faster, then, that kind of helps a lot. Yeah. And it makes you feel like quote unquote empowered, I think some too. And let's not go there.
Yeah, sure. Let's go there, because let's come to think about it, like product strategy in itself, right? Sometimes, in my own opinion, I won't say I don't believe in it, right? Because, like you said, if it's done well, it's meant to boost both of them, speed and quality. But sometimes I'm like,
It's the
why
very
we need
thing holding us down.
yeah, exactly, right?
That's the
So
reality.
it's already killing the space of like speed. Yes,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's not 100% sure. Sometimes when it involves buzzword and nothing, it doesn't even give quality. So there's a lot to pull
Shots
it
fired.
there. I'm telling you, if it's not done right, if everybody on the team doesn't agree to that, if there's a lot of buzzword around some, like definitely there's going to be some loopholes in it. But then let's just move forward, right?
It's actually good that we're staying on it. This is such a good thing to stay on because
Yeah,
here's the thing, right? What you've touched on with how it's important that stakeholders are in
yeah,
Yeah.
agreement. But the reality of it is, how many times do we truly achieve
yeah.
agreement? And what does
It
that bode
is really
for?
tricky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Finding itself says so
So
much.
when you go, when you think
I
about,
mean, this is a podcast in itself,
I
just
agree.
talking about all of the challenges that
Yeah.
face what we call stakeholders, which is essentially, the leaders of different domains or departments within, the companies that we work
Yeah,
with or work for. And it just, they are in a tough spot. I get that. What happens, I think, a lot of times is that we all kind of get into focusing on how can I move things forward for my domain? How can I move things forward for
Yes.
my department? Which is like, I get that, right? Like, I'm a human. I know that I want to look good and I want to get recognition and things like that. And it is, it's easy for us to talk about empathy for our
True.
customers, but
We don't
taking
turn it
that
inward.
same approach and turning it into like, how can I put myself, if I'm, let's say, the core product, head of product, how can I put myself in the shoes of like the head of sales and the other way around, just as an example? Because once you are able to, this works for customers, it works for us. Once you're able to kind of like understand what's motivating and why this, why they are behaving this way, that's like the first step to then coming to a common understanding and in a way to like, how can we work together so that
Yeah.
we're both, or all, however many of us, that we're all kind of achieving our individual goals, but also we're moving, this like bigger value goal forward. And I'll be honest, like it's a challenge. And I think when it's done well, it's usually because someone has decided that they're going to be kind of like the facilitator of
right.
this,
Hmm.
this like action. And they're going to facilitate getting people together who are very busy, getting them together, these domain leaders together to, have communication, have conversation, to work collaboratively. And, you need to have some methods for how you can facilitate that.
Honestly, it's a really good point. When you think about it's what you said about how everyone's coming with their domain considerations and hidden
Yeah.
agenda and whatnot. And we understand that. But it's also so easy for you to begin to chase all of these metrics without necessarily thinking about how it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing it in the best interest of the company, but is it truly? Right? But once again, we said that's the whole conversation. But this is what happens. This is where the gap begins to happen between what
Yeah.
when everybody is all about their own domain, we begin to see that what companies think their customers want and what the customers actually value are miles apart, right? And these are
Yeah.
the pitfalls that happen. This is just one example of the pitfalls that happen where the company is trying to define what the customer value is. So I think for me, I'm trying to see at Otherland Studio, and then in your experience, what have been some unconventional, like approaches that you might have used to gain that deeper insight into customer behavior and motivations? And what other common pitfalls have you seen companies fall into in this regard?
I'll start with pitfalls. And I think, because this is so common across, like, no matter whether you have a product based business or a service based business, the easiest time I think for it to happen is when things are going well. And I've worked at agencies where, you're turning down work The clients are like coming and customers are coming and saying, how much do I need to pay you to work with you? And I think when you're in that moment in product as well, there's something that happens where we kind of start to embrace the product and like it becomes precious or something, or maybe it's hubris, but we begin to kind of like forget what got us here. And maybe you're getting distracted by all of the growth things that you're doing, all of the new customers that you're onboarding. But there's something that happens there. That's where I think kind of like the disconnect begins to form when you're kind of sold on your own product and you're like, this is awesome. Let's just make this thing. Let's just keep pumping it out. Let's just keep going. That's kind of when you start to forget that like your customers and the market are going to change. And if you don't keep
up
going and keep up with them, then that gap is going to get bigger and bigger. And eventually you're going to see that, in your growth is going to start to, slow down. I think, as far as ways to get there, I like simple things. My favorite right now is, Sean Ellis. He has this like test. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's a survey that is a very simple survey that you could administer with a low number of customers that basically helps you hone in on who are the customers that can't live, like current customers. So let's just say we've got a product, we've already got the product market fit. Everything was great a while back, but whoa, hold on a second. Things are like kind of starting to slow down. Start with figuring out who are the customers that can't live without my product right now. And then ask them, what are, like go to that same group and you can, through a few surveys, a few, questions, you can get to what are like the top benefits or value or whatever you want to call it that like those customers experience with my product. I think if you go there, then you can begin to think about how can we take this value that we have and, and build upon it. And like, what are we going to change in order to do that? You go there and then you go from there to find where you're going to grow. I think that it seems logical, but also I've certainly, experienced like when things are, I've been at places where the growth is starting to slow and it's a very anxiety producing moment. And you're starting to really look at like competitors and like with the market and everything's going, and it's really easy to start looking for solutions there. When really, you need to go back and find out what right now is special about your product and then use that as your like kind of leverage point to carve out more space, and find a space for you in the market that's yours. So
good. So in bridging that space, right, you've talked about how like in terms of bridging those gap between the customer values and everything. Let's come to customer insight. Let's say you've gathered some of these insights, right? Now, and you understand some of these little gaps. How do you condense some of this information like into actionable step? And if you also can give us like a story, like you give us like a story where you've had a couple of scenarios similar to that you've had with your customers,
I guess what I'll start with is once you have like some insights, I would go back to kind of what we were talking about, which is to decide what you want to do with that. I think working cross-functionally with people who understand their domains is the next place to start. And that needs to be done in some sort of collaborative, like, a workshop or something. And usually the customer journey is something that you can use as a tool to provide context. You can overlay insights that you have found onto, that like journey map or whatever you want to call it. And then as a group, you need to find a way to, like decide where are we going to take action? Where do we think, we can find the biggest value for both us as a business and for our customers across this journey? And like, I think that's the most powerful. And again, like I'm not even like, nobody has sat down and written, like a strategy thing at this point. I think, you can come together and make those decisions. And then if you want to articulate those, in a way that's going to, help everyone else, then, that would be where the, kind of like strategy document comes into play. But I think it's best formulated by experts who understand their domains working together, not one strategist sitting in a high tower, like, here's my strategy, go forth. It's just, like, that may work for some people. It's just not for me. I actually, I see my role is more facilitating this formation with leaders, and then it gets also to that, we're talking about like buy-in and getting motivated, or getting people to really like be excited. So I don't think that you can make it work and be effective if it doesn't have the voices of the people who are going to be leading this change, if their voices aren't part of it. So
But then you said something around how it's about getting that buy-in from all of these established leaders across these different domains. With your background, where you've worked with different established companies that may
Yeah.
not necessarily have had a growth mindset, right? And you've now referred to, we've talked about the buy-in and getting different aspects of different domains to come together. How have you, in those scenarios, whether it's working in big companies or even with your work at Otherland, where potentially is a client that has different domains going on, and it's like getting all these people to get on one page before things can move forward as a clientele. How do you get them on the same page? How do you get them working towards shared growth goals? How do we break down silos?
like everyone, there's probably a lot of different answers to this question. So I'm just going to say, what I've used, I like, that's worked for me. It's maybe a variation on a design sprint. So maybe, like maybe we don't do as much design, but we do some examination of like what our customer journey, what the experience is as a group, and to identify what are these like outcomes or these jobs that our customers are trying to accomplish, like just to get there, and then go through like a series of activities where we work as a group to like come up with ideas, to narrow those ideas down into something that we feel is like valuable, to assess them on some scale of whether they're going to be a lot of effort for what we're going to get out in the end. This process has worked for me. I have brought like groups of different domain leaders together to sit down and like go through these activities, and it works every time. Every time it works. I'm sure there's other ways, but this works for me. It's worked so well, like that I have worked with companies on a like, let's say we're working on a project to build a new product, and the leadership of the company across different domains has said, we love this is working so well for us, we have this other big decision, this other big thing that we need to do, can you help us and like just do the same thing, but we want to do it over here as well. We need to, decide like what new platform or new system or whatever we're going to adopt, a big decision. Can we do this, over here as well? Because it just cuts through the analysis and like the groupthink, analysis paralysis, all of these kind of like traps that we get in when we get in a room and we want to like make a decision. If there's not a framework or some sort of system and somebody there helping to like facilitate that so that everyone is getting heard and we're all buying in on the decision, then you just end up having meetings about meetings and meetings for the meeting. And yeah, so
Yeah.
True.
what I do is I just I make sure that the people who are going to be making decisions, that they actually get into a room together and make decisions. That works.
Honestly, I think for me, the perspective you come into with this product strategy thing, I think I really like it, and I feel if most people see it in that way, yeah, I think there will be so much simplicity in the way strategy is being done, right? But let's kind of cut the chase. Like, looking at what you said about bringing everybody into the room, what's the role of leadership in terms of establishing and cultivating like a growth culture? And what advice do you give to them in terms of how they should cultivate or why they should cultivate it amongst their teams?
That is tough. That is tough. It's just if the culture isn't there already, it's not an overnight thing. For myself, I think if you as a leadership can first kind of learn how to work together and have a growth mentality in how you know interact with each other, just being open to trying something and it not working out, learning from that, that is really not a small thing, because I think when you're in a leadership position, there's a lot of risk, that you associate with a mistake, or, like something seeming like it's not going to plan. So I think that you have to first work together and like basically practice trying things like mini experiments or whatever you want to call them for your group, and then taking that, like once you kind of internalize that, then I think you can begin to like help your teams. But if you're not able to work that way as a leadership, then it's just words. I mean, and so that's why I'm saying I think it takes time and it takes commitment to to say like, okay, I'm going to start taking a new approach. I'm going to start working with my counterpart. And if there's, we try something and it doesn't work out, what can we learn from that? Let's keep trying. Mistakes are okay.
Mistakes are okay, and 70% of experiments fail. So get comfortable with failure.
Get comfortable with it. But like, so you kind of have to get some exposure therapy, I guess, is, to get comfortable with that. And it's not like it's easy, and it's not like it ever gets easy, but this is how we change. This is how we grow. Growth comes through change. And so being able to, be comfortable with that, then you'll be able to get your organization. I'm sure that there is a way to do it the reverse. Some teams or people internally kind of teach the organization. But for me, my preference is to start working on the guys and gals that are, the folks that are leading.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Zach. We could go on. We could go on with this conversation, but okay. So, in wrapping this all up, we have gone as deep as time will allow on this topic, where it's just the idea is we see so many organizations begin to get stuck in spinning their wheels when it comes to growth, and our focus was one. Can we talk about this thing that's quite important to the work of growth, which is product strategy? And Zachary is taking us across just how do you throw out the frameworks? Well, in a way that you can refocus your attention on what truly matters, right? And then we've talked about the buzzwords you hear about, innovation and all of the synergies and things like this. But all this sometimes is just work that is stopping us from doing the actual work when we focus too much on the artifacts. And we've sort of gone through how do you spend time doing valuable things, which is understanding truly what customer value is over our precious artifacts. And finally, we dug a bit into growth mindsets within companies. And so thank you so much. It's been a wonderful chat with you, Zachary. Just tell our listeners.
Likewise.
Thank you. Tell our listeners where they can connect with you online or learn more about your work.
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I think it's at Zach Bolton. And then, you can find me there. That's the best place. Or you can probably find me someplace on the Otherland website, but LinkedIn is great. Yeah. And if you have any thoughts about what we talked about today, I would love to hear them. I'm always looking to learn and to grow. So
yeah, that's the point of these conversations, right? We're not acting like we know it all. We're just pointing fingers.
No, it's I think it's really good to have a attitude that like your story is still being written. I certainly have that feeling, and I think it ultimately it really does make work and life more interesting and more fun. Yeah.
Okay. And so we like to ask, do you have any final words for designers who are looking to start their own independent practice and just dream of working with founders that are building products?
I think my advice would be similar to the advice that I've definitely heard given to other founders, which is like, if you're thinking about, going out and starting something, it is really great to have a co-founder or a partner to work with. I mean, solopreneurship is like a thing now, and so it does work for some people, but I wanted to build something that was bigger than me, and also, if it hasn't become clear from our conversation, I like working with other people. I really like working together on teams. I just get so much more out of that. So my advice would be that it is really helpful, especially in the ups and downs of a small business that you're trying to grow and build. It's so helpful to have someone else to kind of ride that roller coaster with you. Yeah. So
True.
I love that.
I can't agree less, because sometimes you could see it is half full, but then the other person could see half empty, which sort of balance your thing. I think it's always a good thing to have a co-founder. I think I agree with you 100%, and Ini will know.
I mean, we
Yeah.
would know.
You would know, right?
We would know. So much goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. And I can easily call it out. He's the half empty person, and I'm the half full. Okay.
Nobody say you should judge now.
I'm just saying.
No, but you got to have the half empty so you
Yeah.
can have the half full.
Exactly. So
There's a lot of value there in the half empty.
perfect. It's a balance, honestly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So lightning questions, right?
Yes,
All right.
it is time for the lightning, and we gotta go lightning. I can't believe
Yeah.
we won.
Okay.
So this one I'm going to be straight, because you've always trying to make it long. So give us your top 3 products you use daily and you love.
Okay, top 3 products okay, so I'm going to say, just because a lot of us use a lot of the same products. So I'm going to go a little bit off script here, because you could answer for me, actually. So I want to go a little bit off. So already I'm like, yeah, lightning round.
This is what happens every time.
All right, so I think there's one product that I really love that is a physical product. It's my microphone, and it's a Shure MV7, I think what it is, but I love it. I would say I use it definitely every day, and it just makes a difference when we're working in the kind of the way that we work these days, where a lot of what we communicate is kind of it's like over a screen, and I think that voice becomes a little bit more of a factor in in communication and understanding when it's kind of like this. So that's why I like it. And then as far as the other two, there's some products out there that I just I know I want to try. I just have them in this little holding area that as soon as I get a project that I can use them on, I want to do that. And one is They Do, which we talked about the customer journey map, and when I met them, which is a while back, I was just yes, contextualize everything that we're doing by using this thing. I mean, it's it's not perfect. I'm sure that there are complexities that you can't necessarily illustrate across a customer journey, but it is so cool to have something like that kind of stays alive and isn't just an artifact, right? The other thing is there's another product that I want to use, which is kind of it's a research assistant. These are my words. I think that they would use something different to describe. It's a research assistant that helps with conducting user research. It's basically it can help you generate your screener or your questions. It will facilitate interviews. It'll do the summaries afterwards. It's really cool. I've been wanting to use it myself as soon as possible to kind of see what's the difference between when a person, when a participant is talking to me or they're talking to an avatar, how does that change human behavior? Just really interesting, because I think there's maybe some different things we would learn by using a tool like this. So that one is called Strella. And I think they're going to be coming out of stealth mode as we speak. So
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. One design resource you keep going back to like every time.
all right, so I'm not a designer, so my design resources is other designers, and I probably like if you looked over like just over time, I worked for the best designer I have ever known. He's just amazing, and I worked for him many years ago, and I go to him. He's kind of like a design mentor and a mentor for me, and I go to him as a design resource all the time. So if not him, then like my partner Artyom as well. Those are my resources.
Great.
Yeah.
3 books you like to recommend?
Okay, so I'll do 2 nonfiction and 1 fiction, and I'll start with the nonfiction. Of course, the first one is going to be this book, No Bullshit Strategy. I think that would not be a surprise to anyone. I like when I stumbled upon this book, I was like, it was a breath of fresh air. I love Alex M.H. Smith. I love the way he approaches the topic, and so highly recommend that book. It's very practical, so if you've liked kind of what we've talked about here as far as strategy, that book basically embodies the idea of how strategy can be used to be very effective in moving you forward. The other is Running Lean by Ash Mayura. This is the book. It's a book that's kind of it's kind of targeted at startup founders, but it's also like very applicable to like basically any business. And it just kind of goes through how like different practical ways that you can grow your business and keep your business healthy. That's how I would interpret it. I think, what does he say? Iterating from plan A to a plan that works.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's a great book. And then the last one is called House of Suns. This is I'll put it on the screen for those of you who are watching. This is a science fiction book.
Ooh.
And we didn't even, I'm a science fiction geek. And this book is really cool. It's not new. It's been out for a few years, but it's basically about like the future of humanity where we've figured out how to, travel long distances and live.
Or through the sun?
What's that?
I was guessing you're going to say travel into the sun because it's called House of Suns.
No. No. We didn't figure that one out yet.
It's free corner now, so it's possible.
Yeah, that story we read, they got to the sun, they melted at the end.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's more around like what would it look like if humanity kind of like lived, like we figured out how to extend our lives for thousands of years and travel, across galaxies. Like what does that do to us and our perspective and our relationships? And it's a really cool book. So if you're into science fiction, I recommend it.
Okay. Last few questions. It's going to be just 3 words questions now. 3 words answer. I'm going to be very strict now.
No.
Okay. What profession will you be instead of your current one?
Oh yes. Okay. Oh, man, these are so hard to answer short. I would do something with specialty coffee, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I had a comment and then I swallowed it.
I'm like a really deep down the coffee
person
rabbit hole, way too far. And if I had anything else I would do, I would make no money and just brew and roast coffee. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, I have to say my comment. I'm sorry, Ronald. This is what I say. I was saying that I've noticed this trend that when we ask this question, for many people, it is often the slowest types of professions that I hear. Quite frankly, I wouldn't mind going and just getting a farm and raising chickens and just hearing them cluck all day. So yeah.
Yeah. You didn't. I didn't say barista because that's like too intense. That's like way. Yeah. No, I want to be like, just like going to the farms, I don't know.
Okay.
I guess you check out the beans.
Pick up some chicken, some egg
Yeah.
for breakfast.
Visit the processing facilities and talk to the farmers, and I think it would just be, it would be, well, it would be definitely
Yeah.
slower.
So, what's
Yeah.
your favorite food?
All right, since I live in LA, I guess I have to say tacos, because
Yeah,
LA
it
has their taco scene is like next level. There's a lot of really great places to get tacos here. And yeah, so that's probably, I eat a lot of tacos.
Well, see you soon in LA.
All right, your favorite movie?
My favorite, Blade Runner.
That when I saw
Oh,
you put that comment in, I was like, yes, he gets it.
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I just love, I love the way that, I mean, it's a science fiction thing, but I just love the way it does such a good job of portraying how humanity might look in this future scenario.
Mhm.
So much there, especially with like the way things are going with technology.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay,
that's
to wrap this up, I'm going to take us into the past. You've got a sign behind you that I want you to
Ooh,
quickly,
right.
briefly
Ooh.
tell us that story. What is going on there with that train station sign?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. This sign is it's actually from the train station near where I used to live in Brooklyn. I got my start in the, quote unquote, like, product industry in working in agencies in New York. And, when I moved there for grad school, and my wife and I were both in grad school at the same time. So you can imagine, it was a very lean existence living in New York City on a grad student's budget. And so there was we were coming home. We were coming home one night, and they had just like made some changes to the train station, near us. And the workers updated the sign for whatever reason, and they just left the old one laying on the street. And since we we didn't have art on the wall, like, what is this, so we just, we were looking at it at the time, we're like, that would fit on the wall. Yes, that would
where
definitely fit on the wall.
let's not get
Let's
today.
put that on the wall.
Basically, y'all robbed the city for your interior
Yeah,
art.
when I tell people this, they're like, you took that? Well, it was laying on the street at like 10 o'clock at night. Like, what do you want?
That is so good. I love that
I'm
story.
pretty sure they had decided that, it was not, they weren't going to keep it.
Yeah.
So it's just stayed with me now since then, because it reminds me of some really, some really good years.
That's
And
great.
yeah.
Well, if anyone from New York City Council or whatever you call your municipalities, this is where your sign
No, wait.
went.
You didn't see that. The sign out of frame.
I love it. Thank you so much, Zachary. This has been an interestingly amazing and fun conversation. And to everyone listening, I hope that you've been able to. I hope the conversations enriched you. And if you have alternative thoughts on this topic, we are very open to listening and learning and just hearing different perspectives on this issue, because as you can hear, it's something that concerns us all, regardless of where you work and how you work. So thank you so much, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
everyone. Thank you.